Yes, people, what is the crack? Thank you very much for joining me again for another episode of Brandon Talks Fighting. This week we've got a lot to break down. We're going to break down the last UFC card of the year, the last UFC card of 2025. It was a decent card, some good talking points coming out of it. Of course, in the main event, Manel Kape, whatever you want to call him. I don't actually know what his real name is. He gets Kape and Kape. I'm going to call him Kape. He gets a round 1 KO against Brandon Royval. My pick for this one wasn't a good one. I went for a Royval decision. When you pick someone, they win a decision and they get finished in the first round, your prediction probably couldn't have went any worse. So that's what happened to me in this fight, but it was a really, really impressive knockout by Manel Kape. We're going to be breaking that down. We're going to be looking at, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Anthony Joshua is fighting Jake Paul on Friday night, live on Netflix. We're going to be talking about that as well. I thought this fight would have fell through by now, but it still hasn't. It's fight week. It looks like it's going to happen. Absolutely crazy. So we'll be breaking that down. I'm also going to speak to Will fucking Fleury, the one and only, the OKTAGON light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, reigning from Tipperary, Ireland. He fights Martin Budai on the 28th of December to retain or to defend his OKTAGON heavyweight title. We talk about loads of stuff in this interview, so make sure and stay tuned for that as well. And then on the back end of the show, we're going to be talking about PFL Lyon, which happened. Of course, Connor Hughes unfortunately got knocked out in round 3. He was on last week's show. Very, very good fight that was. Just got caught. We'll be breaking that down. Dean Garnett was in a horrible stoppage. We'll be talking about that as well. And we'll be talking about the rest of the fights on that card. And then off the back of that, there's some interest from a certain Francis Ngannou. There's a lot of stories surrounding him at the minute, so we'll be touching on all of that gossip too. So big show planned here for you today. I hope you look forward to it. I hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you very much for tuning in. This is episode 5 weeks in a row, bringing you this podcast every Monday. So if you've been here from the start over the past 5 weeks, I really do appreciate the support. I'm loving creating this content for you all. It's good having a space just to talk shit and give my takes every Monday. So thank you very much everyone that's tuning in. So we'll start this week's show by looking at the final Apex card of 2025, or the final UFC card of 2025. Manel Kape knocks out Brandon Royval. As I said in the intro, I didn't see this coming. Manel Kape is good. He really has got KO power for flyweight. I think he's now got the most knockouts or the most finishes in flyweight history, or joint most. That is a really, really impressive stat they hold. It might be enough to get him a title shot as well, which we'll discuss in a wee minute. Brandon Royval did look good in this fight right up until this moment. It was very back and forward. It was starting to look like a really, really good fight. Brandon Royval was landing some nice kicks, but Manel Kape, it didn't really go until the knockout. You could sort of tell he was trying to wind up. He was trying to back Brandon Royval against the cage. Finally, he gets him back against the cage a few minutes into the round and lands this beautiful short right hook, which drops Royval. And it's actually the shot on the way down that puts him out. He lands another shot just as Royval's fallen to the ground, and he's back up against the cage. And it's night. You can see him. You can see the lights going out. He did bounce up pretty quickly and protested the stoppage, but he was out cold. It was a very, very nice strike by Manel Kape. He puts himself in the title picture. Now, I kind of said before this fight that neither of these two, in my opinion, should get a title fight back or off the back of a win here. I think they needed one more fight or one more win. But now it's kind of hard to deny Manel Kape after doing that. Brandon Royval went the distance with Pantoja, had a very good fight with Pantoja. He beat Joshua Van, who's the current champion, and Manel Kape knocked him out in the first round. MMA maths don't always add up, but you know, it's hard to argue against that. Manel Kape, as I said, he's got power for flyweight, joint with the most finishes, and it would be an entertaining fight against Joshua Van. Two strikers that will stand in the pocket and trade. There will be quite a lot of shit talk running up there. Manel Kape loves doing a bit of shit talk. I seen there he was saying that he's the second most famous person in Portugal after Cristiano Ronaldo. Very modest of himself to put himself after CR7 in my opinion, but he talks a lot of shit, and he has the whole way through his UFC career. He was slabbering the Israel Adesanya on stage one time. He was using slurs as well one time to the crowd. He's a guy that does bring a lot of controversy. Of course, the fight with Muhammad Mokaev as well. There was a lot of storylines around that about them fighting in the hotel, and of course they just ran at each other on stage in the press conference and then done nothing when the fight happened. Also worth noting. So he's a guy that brings headlines. He's a guy that brings controversy. He does pull out a lot. The UFC might not trust him in a big spot, but a flyweight title fight on a co-main event, if you have Tatsuro Taira or someone like that ready for backup, I can see why they would give Manel Kape the title shot off the back of this beautiful KO over Brandon Royval. Very, very good win for him. Brandon Royval knocks him down the pecking order again. He's now 17-9. Good few losses on his record now. It's kind of hard to see where he fits into the picture. Of course, Kyoji Horiguchi is fighting Amir Albazi in the January Apex card, I think it was announced for. Tatsuro Taira doesn't have a fight yet, but he's already fought Royval, so he beat Royval, to be fair. Maybe Tatsuro Taira wants to get that one back before getting a title shot. That could possibly happen. But the UFC are going to be looking at putting a card on in Japan, and Manel Kape is the perfect figure for that. They've already got Kyoji Horiguchi. I was surprised they booked him for January. I thought they might have held him off for this Japanese card. But if he gets a win in January, he definitely enters title talks. He definitely enters #1 contention fight talks or title eliminator talks. Manel Kape is also a huge star in Japan. If you don't know, he built the bulk of his career in Rizin, which is a promotion out in Japan. So he's very, very well thought of out there. So if they've Kyoji Horiguchi, Manel Kape, and also Tatsuro Taira, and then the champion, Josh Yavan, all in the picture, that's 3 fighters in the flyweight division that are big stars in Japan. So it's a no-brainer. Bring the fight night or bring a pay-per-view to Tokyo. Make it a really, really historic one. Make it a good one. Really stack it out. This is what we want to see. We want to see the UFC travelling around the world, breaking into new markets. This won't be a new market. MMA is massive in Japan. As I just said, Rizin, huge organisation out there. Pride back in the day used to have a lot of fights in Japan. That's where Rampage Jackson came out of. He was a huge star in Japan before he even broke into the American mainstream media. So that is a place they need to look at going, and especially now. If they don't do it now, they'll never do it, because they've got 3 stars in one division that can go there and put on really, really good fights and really entertaining fights that will get a lot of eyeballs in somewhere that is dressed in wealth of martial arts like Japan. So good one for Manel Kape. Unfortunate for Brandon Royval. I do like Brandon Royval, so it was kind of sad to see him go out like this, but that's the fight game for you, eh? Co-main event, Kevin Vallejos taking on Giga Chikadze. Kevin Vallejos is another one that I've heard so many pronunciations of his name. I'm going to go for Vallejos. First round started off here, and Giga Chikadze won this round. You could tell Kevin Vallejos was sort of waiting that big shot. He was winding up that right hand, or he was winding up a big shot of some kind. You just didn't know what it was. But he looked a wee bit tentative in the first round, and Giga Chikadze just outworked him in order to get a 10-9 round in the bag there. Giga Chikadze, of course, a kickboxing background, landing loads of body kicks, looking very, very good. You know, he was looking lucent, fluid in there, looking great, to be honest with you, and it did surprise me. But you could sort of see Kevin Vallejos, he's got a similar style. Bisping said it on commentary, he's got a similar style to Topuria. He's got that sort of tight, rounded shoulder boxing style, very, very high guard. And of course that's a stretch, linking him to Ilia Topuria or comparing him to Ilia Topuria, but you can see the similarities in the style. A wee bit more tentative than what Topuria would be in that first round, but then in round 2 it all comes together. He backs him up against the cage and lands, it's not even really a spinning elbow and it's not a spinning back fist, it was kind of this forearm that landed on Giga Chikadze, knocks Giga Chikadze out cold. He sort of fits kind of after, he goes in there like a short seizure type thing after. Maybe that's overplaying it a bit, it wasn't a seizure, but you can see him fitting. He's out cold anyway. It wasn't a nice knockout to see. He was brutally knocked out, and it was a really good knockout for Kevin Vallejos. Impressive stuff by him. He moves up to 17-1. He is a bit of a star in the making in that featherweight division, to be honest with you. It's interesting because he was meant to fight Luke Riley in Dana White's Contender Series, which was meant to be, I think it was the end of last year maybe. They were matched up against each other in the Contender Series. Of course, Luke Riley wasn't able to fight because of visa issues. Kevin Vallejos went on, got his ticket to the UFC, and has now went on this couple fight win streak, 2-3 fight win streak that he's on now. He's had a very, very good start, looking very dangerous in doing that. So that's maybe a fight they could run back. Luke Riley and Kevin Vallejos, they still keep slabbering each other on Instagram. That's a really good fight for Luke Riley right now. He's sort of jumping up, you know, maybe a couple fights ahead of where he should be. to be brutally honest, your first few fights in the UFC should be against lower opposition, not someone that's 17-1 and, is already sort of becoming a good name within the MMA world or within the UFC world. So that'd be a great fight for Kevin Vallejos. That fight would be absolutely fireworks. Two strikers, two very, very good strikers going at it. So really, really good win for him. Giga Chikadze, I think he's now 1-3 in his last 4. It's not looking good for him. He's now down to 15-6. So very good win for Kevin Vallejos. Now, the next fight was Cesare Olikachuk, fucking hell, these names, against Cesar Almeida. Olikachuk, oh my god, Olikachuk was just able to lay and prey on him. Very, very boring to watch. There wasn't too much that really happened in this fight. There was quite an interesting moment where Cesar Olikachuk was on top of Cesar Almeida, and it looks like he lands a low blow, and I was thinking, how the fuck have you landed a low blow while you're on top? I've never seen that happening. But then the referee makes a very good call and he tells them both off. They both fouled each other because what actually happened was Cesar Almeida is on bottom and he somehow lands a knee to Olikachuk's head, and then Olikachuk lands a low blow. Really strange scenario, really weird turn of events in that fight. Of course there was no points taken off or nothing, but I haven't seen that happen too often where someone on top gets kneed on the head for a start and then they land a low blow. Strange way that one played out, but a bit of a boring win for Olikachuk, but he does get there in the end via unanimous decision. Now, Morgan Charrier was taking on Costa. This was a beautiful knockout. This was a very good knockout by Costa. First round, lands a really, really nice head kick. This will be up here for, I don't think it is knockout of the year. I think, even Quaylen Salkids was probably better. It was more devastating, but this was a really nice head kick. Costa landed a really nice body kick early on, and I think he used it to set the head kick up because you could see when Morgan Charrier got backed against the cage, what Costa done was he looked as if he was going to throw the exact same body kick that he threw earlier on in the round. Morgan Charrier, obviously feeling the effects of the early body kick, naturally drops the elbows, they block it, and then Costa brings it upstairs, which, beautiful knockout. And Morgan Charrier out cold. No need for any follow-up punches in this scenario. Costa looking good, man. He's on a pretty decent run. He's got the mad hair. He's got the look to go far. If you have something different looking about you in the fight game, you're easily recognisable, and especially if you've got a style where you're knocking out guys like Morgan Charrier with head kicks, of course, a former Cage Warriors champion. It's a really good path to be going down. So he moves up to 25-7 with a really good first round knockout. Moving on down the card, Kennedy and Kedjoui taking on Marcus Buchecha. This was a decent fight, and props to Herb Dean in this fight, actually. Props to Herb Dean, because I've been ranting on ever since I've started this podcast. Nearly every week I touch on eye pokes. There's some kind of eye poke controversy, and I always say a point should be taken off straight away. There was a double eye poke happened. Buchecha eye poked and Kedjoui. Double eye poke, not quite as bad as Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane, but a double eye poke nonetheless, and Herb Dean takes a point off straight away. That is what you want to see. You want to see eye pokes punished. It did lead to a draw because Buchecha won rounds 1 and rounds 3, and Kedjoui won round 2. Won it anyway, but then with the foul, the point taken off, it was then became a 10-8 round, which leads to a draw. You might see more draws if you punish eye pokes and fouls, but this will stop eye pokes happening so often. So a decent fight. A draw is a bit of a stinker, no one really gains anything from a draw, but it is what it is. I was glad. The talking point from that one was the fact that Herb Dean actually took a point on an eye poke on the first one as well. So very, very good to see. I did enjoy seeing that. That's what I've been calling for weeks on this podcast. So big up Herb Dean for doing that. And then Bobby King Green, of course, gets a split decision win against Lance Gibson Jr. I scored that one the exact same as the judges. Decent enough fight. Good to see Bobby King Green back in the win column. He's having a rough time of late, so he's back in there. And then, Orslav Amosov looks very, very good. 29-1 with a statement win over Neil Magny. Gets an anaconda choke in round 1. Very, very nice finish by him. He moves to 29-1. He could be one, well, not the first, but he could be a real good prospect come from Bellator. When you think of prospects from Bellator, you think about Michael Chandler, came with all this hype, came after his prime, to be fair, but he didn't really live up to the hype that he came across with. Patchy Mix, the same. Patricio Pitbull, the same. This is the kind of names we've been getting over from Bellator of late. Someone that did make a real good transition is Kayla Harrison, but Amosov looks really, really good. Fighting out of Ukraine. I seen a really cool video of him, and I seen it at the time, but I never put two and two together that it was him actually coming to the UFC, of him recovering his belt. So during the Ukraine and Russia war, I don't know, his house got blown up or something, but he's able to go into the basement and recover his Bellator belt. Look on Twitter, see if you can find this video. It's a really, really cool one. Very good one for him, moving to 29-1. That's an incredible record. Really, really good record. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Of course, that was his debut in the UFC. So now that he's coming up against Neil Magny, someone, he was a gatekeeper of the division, top 15, top 10. You had to beat him in order to get in to the top of the rankings. He's maybe not that now. He's sort of slipped down a wee bit. Doesn't win just as many fights as what he used to. But he is, he's had 45 career MMA fights. That's professional bouts. So to be getting in there and beating someone like him on your UFC debut, finishing him with an anaconda choke in the first round. Very, very, very impressive stuff. Looks good for him. So hopefully that gives us another contender in that division. Hopefully he can keep going on a run, and we see him in some good fights. The last one I'm going to talk about on this card is Steven Aspland. Serious output from this guy. Let's talk about this guy's journey. So he weighed 525 pounds, which is 238 kilograms. That is crazy. He then cut down and now fights at 260, which is 118 kilograms. So that means he lost 120 kg. That is absolutely mental. That is a really impressive weight loss. They go from 238 kilograms to now fighting inside the UFC, and I don't think it was that many years either. Maybe it was within the space of a decade anyway. I'm not 100% sure how many years, but definitely within the space of 10 years from his heaviest to what he is now. That is really, really impressive. I loved his post-fight speech as well. He sort of says that he doesn't give a shit what people say about him. Really genuine, thanking everyone that he loves, thanking everyone around him. He moves up to 7-1. He put an onslaught on Sean Sharif as well. Don't get me wrong, the punches he lands, they're not typical heavyweight power punches, but it does actually look pretty quick. Saying that someone that used to be 238 kilograms looks pretty quick for the heavyweight division, his hand speed is quite quick, and I think that might carry him far. I don't know what his grappling's like. He's only had 8 professional MMA fights now. I don't know if he goes up against a grappler. There is this thing in the heavyweight division, right, where it's, you've got Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane, and these type of guys who maybe put Almeida and Curtis Blades in there. These are top heavyweights, really athletic heavyweights. And then you move down to your sort of guys like Derek Lewis, who can knock anyone the fuck out. But, he's not athletic. He's not an athlete the way the other guys are. Tai Tuivasa, another one, for example. Steven Aspland might fall into this category. But there's going to be fun fights for him. Big blob heavyweights. They're exciting to watch. There's always going to be knockouts, especially with his hand speed as well. He offers something a wee bit different to the likes of Tai Tuivasa and all them kind of guys. So to go from 238 kilograms, they now fighting inside the UFC, that is unbelievable stuff by him. So big up him. I'll be looking forward to watching his journey. I do love a story like that, a crazy, crazy weight loss story. Really, really good to see. Unbelievable stuff. We're going to come back to MMA very, very shortly. That breaks down the last UFC card of the year. Next week, I'm going to be doing an award show. I might do it next week or the week after. I'm not 100% sure, but stay tuned. I'm going to be doing an award show, giving my knockout of the year, fight of the year, breakout fighter of the year, male fighter, female fighter. I'm going to be giving all the awards out. So make sure and stay tuned for that next week, which will really do a review of 2025 as a whole for the UFC and all other organisations. But we're going to segue over into a little bit of boxing now. Jake Paul is fighting Anthony Joshua. I repeat again, this is crazy, folks. How have we got to this stage? I did think it was going to fall through. I completely understand why Joshua's taking it. I spoke about this before. 70 million. I said 10 million last time. I don't know where I got 10 million from, but he's making 70 million for this fight against Jake Paul. That is crazy, crazy numbers. One of his highest paydays of his career for fighting someone that's, nowhere near on the level of his usual opposition. So, and fair play to Jake Paul for taking this fight. The criticism of Jake Paul, and I was one of them, was that he handpicks his opponents. They're either MMA fighters who are never going to transition over to boxing and beat someone like Jake Paul, who's been training solely boxing for the best part of a decade now, with the top trainers, the top coaches, the top recovery. He can put more money than these MMA fighters into his camps, etc. So that's going to be a tough ask for an MMA fighter. Jake Paul handpicked these opponents. Impressive wins. If you had said to me when Jake Paul was a YouTuber that he was going to beat guys like Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Ben Askren, Tyrone Woodley, Mike Perry, I would have said no chance. But he stuck at this. He now lives like a boxer. His full-time job is boxing. So now it's not unsurprising that he can beat these MMA fighters. If it wasn't an MMA fighter he was fighting, if it was a boxer, it was a boxer that was too old, like Mike Tyson, who's 58 years of age when he fought Jake Paul. My criticism of him was the one time he did fight an actual boxer, and not a good boxer at that, was Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury beat him. He's putting all of this talk to bed, to be honest with you. I can't now say that Jake Paul handpicks his opponent because he's only gone and picked Anthony Joshua. He is an absolute madman. This is crazy, and he has got a set of cojones. He has got a set of balls for taking this fight. Say what you want about him, you have to give him respect for stepping in there with Anthony Joshua, especially when you see what Anthony Joshua done to Francis Ngannou. He knocked him out cold, like a devastating knockout at the start of that fight. And Jake Paul is nowhere near the experience that Francis Ngannou has. He is nowhere near the size or the power that Francis Ngannou beholds. And he's still willing to step in there with Anthony Joshua. So he's a braver man than me, I'll tell you that for free. That is crazy. Is this fight real? This is something that people's talking about online. I think it has to be real. Matchroom Boxing would not get involved with a fight that is hidden contracts. Frank Smith, Eddie Hearn, these guys that run Matchroom, they wouldn't taint their legacy and the name that they have built with signing these under the radar contracts. Don't get me wrong, I think Jake Paul does have these contracts with some of his fights. You've seen the Mike Tyson fight. It's an exhibition. They can put whatever they want in the contract, such as you can't land over 3 punches as part of a combination and things like this here. Fighters that have fought Jake Paul have said that these things are in the contract sometimes, but it's a professional bout this time, so first of all, it would be illegal to do that, and second of all, Anthony Joshua and the Matchroom team would not get involved in this if it was this type of fight. So my prediction for this is that it has to be an Anthony Joshua round 1 KO. Unless Jake Paul comes in and, really just guards up and doesn't throw anything in the first round, he might get by the first round. But if he tries to land a punch, surely Anthony Joshua is able to counter that and just knock him out clean, cold. I think we are finally going to get the visual that people have been asking for, that people's been looking for ever since Jake Paul started boxing. That visual of Jake Paul lying out cold on the canvas, this is what people tune in to watch Jake Paul to see, and we still haven't seen it. Look, I like Jake Paul, as I just said. I've got a hell of a lot of respect for him, but I think this is the time we will see that visual. I can't see it going any other way. This fight has to be a real fight. Matchroom's not going to get involved unless it's not. Anthony Joshua is one of the best heavyweights in the world. Of course, he got beat by Daniel Dubois in his last fight. He's not at the level he once was, but he's just on the back end of his prime. He's still young. He's still hungry. He is going to knock Jake Paul out in the first round. Can't go any other way than that. Let me know your thoughts about this fight in the comments, because there's a lot of people still talking that, it's not a real fight. And I think it's maybe split. There's quite a lot of people saying, the same point of view that I do, that if Matchroom's involved, it has to be. It's a professional bout. It has to be a real fight. There's some people saying that, they don't buy it. They don't believe it. I think people will buy it. If Jake Paul gets flatlined in the first round, I think people will buy that this is a real fight. They have to. They have to. Right, so we're going to move on to a little bit of OKTAGON. For those of you who don't know what OKTAGON is, OKTAGON MMA is a promotion that's mainly based in Eastern Europe, a huge promotion. These guys sell out football stadiums. Like, the atmosphere at OKTAGON shows look out of this world. They do shows in like Prague, Brussels, Belgium, all over Eastern Europe, loads and loads of different places. I'm trying to think where else. There's nowhere popping off or popping to the top of my mind. They do loads and loads of different shows. They sell out football stadiums. Really, really enthusiastic crowd over there. Now, they've got a champion called Will Fleury. I'm just breaking this down for people that might listen to the podcast that doesn't actually follow this as closely as what I do and as what a lot of people do. I just want to let you know that Ireland has a double champion in Octagon, Will Fleury. He holds the light heavyweight title, he holds the heavyweight title, and he's on an 8-fight win streak. He signed with Octagon in 2024, went on this crazy run, was fighting very, very actively, fighting very often, picked up the 2 titles along the way, beating Carlos Vermola, who is a huge star in Czech Republic, huge star over there. He beat him and beat, Pavel in his last fight. This fight, he's trying to defend his heavyweight title against Martin Buday. Martin Buday, if you don't know who he is, went 7-1 in the UFC, got cut by the UFC. I'm not actually sure why he got cut, because he had a 7-1 record. Beat guys like Andrei Arlovsky. Does tend to be quite a boring fighter. Maybe that's why he got cut. He held the Octagon heavyweight title, went on Dana White's Contender Series, went to the UFC, of course, went 7-1, and he's now coming back to fight for his heavyweight title that Will Fleury holds. So Will Fleury isn't an actual heavyweight. He fought for the light heavyweight title against Vermola and then got the opportunity to fight at heavyweight, stepped up and won the fight. He's 104 kilos at the minute. You know, he's not a typical heavyweight. Light heavyweight is the division he's always fought in, and he's also hinted and sort of spoke about going down to middleweight as well. So that shows you he's not an actual heavyweight. Martin Buday is. Will Fleury has given up about 30 or 40 kilos in this fight, so this would be a really, really good win if he can do it. So tune into this interview that I done with the one and only Will fucking Fleury. Will fucking Fleury, how's the form, my friend? Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. What's the crack?
Oh, all good, mate. Yeah, fucking excited now. Ready to get in and whoop some ass.
It's nearly time. I was just saying to you there, it's mad because I interviewed you, I think it was 1 year ago to the day exactly. You were going to fight Carlos Vermola.
Yeah.
Vermola, sorry. What a fight that was. His head was fucking indestructible that night. It was crazy.
Yeah. I don't know what I had to do to put him away, but I didn't do it in the end. So,
I don't, I don't think anyone could have put that man away that night. You're fighting Martin Buday this time, December 28th in Prague, Czech Republic. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to kick off. You've been at Manchester this week. Have you trained in Manchester top team? What's the crack there? Are you staying out there long?
Yeah, I've just been here for the week. So I came on Tuesday morning. We sparred Tuesday morning. And I'd like, look, right now in Ireland, I only have Carl Moore and Mohammed Al-Tarhanov. Carl obviously, big lad, grappling, our big lad in the MMA scene. But over here, a lot of bigger lads. Atiba mostly this week, and
He's an animal, isn't he?
Oh, he's a beast, yeah. No, you got to keep your P's and Q's around him, because
how's he a middleweight? Like, even seeing him compared, like, standing beside you that's fighting at heavyweight, I'm
he's
like,
basically the same fucking size as me this week. You know, I'm 107, I think he's 104 or whatever, but yeah, he's fucking huge.
That's mental. He must have a tough weight cut.
No doubt. But basically, yeah, overtrained with a few bigger lads. I'm getting a bit of a different look because, myself and Carl know each other inside out. And, all the boys in SBG I'll be well used to, if you know what I mean. So it's more just different bodies, different looks. And even, Carl Prince's coaching, getting Carl's insight on things is always a massive benefit to me. I've been over here twice now, and both times I'm just wow, fuck. He gives a shit, and he really pushes you, and he kind of, he doesn't just push you physically, he has you paying attention to your technique all the time. You know, you're much more, it's drilled into you, where are your feet, what's your intention behind this shot, what are you setting up with that? You're kind of thinking about the fight a lot more tactically while you're over here, I find.
Is this something you're planning on doing more in the future? You obviously mentioned you've been over at Manchester before, but are you going to continue doing this?
Yeah, I'd like to, all right, yeah. And look, it just depends. Who knows how MMA careers go, if you know what I mean. So it depends what promotion I end up in or what happens long term. But yeah, I'd love to be, coming over training with these lads. They're great lads.
Yeah, I suppose it's the joys of being a big lad too. There's not just as many bodies hanging about Dublin.
To find each other, So I'm willing to travel these days. That's the thing, and I've adapted that attitude of if I'm going to be getting high level training in all the time, it's not always going to be in Dublin. I'm going to have to be moving around, you know.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Last time we spoke, as I said, was this time last year. We spoke about how you were going to not miss Christmas, but you were fighting in December the 29th last year. It mustn't have been that bad because I think you said to me you don't mind doing it this year. It's all
Yeah,
for the fight game, but you mustn't have minded it that bad if you're going to do it again.
yeah, but this year's even better because I can have my Christmas dinner, so it's a heavyweight fight. And there's no weight cut. Like last year, Christmas was kind of cool because it was intense. It was like I went in, trained at the gym that morning, went home, had two slices of turkey and a bit of Brussels sprouts, and went for a walk, and then came back in later that night and trained again. So it was actually a pretty cool Christmas day. But this year, sure, I think I'm going to be able to eat a good bit more, and because of not having to do the weight cut, I'll probably just go in and do a bit of sharp pad work and keep the engine revved a bit. But like, I don't have to do that too intense.
Yeah, of course, of course. This is your longest break since signing with Octagon. You haven't
Yeah,
fought since March. Was that intentional?
I broke my hand in the Todd F fight, so I broke my thumb, the same one that I broke in the first fight. Well, I did. I broke the thumb off of Sean Strickland about 2 weeks before my Octagon debut. So I went in and fought with it broken, and then I got it repaired. But it was a basic surgery. It was just like the two pins to push the thumb back into place. The first time, it never quite healed the way it should have healed. So then in that Todd F fight, I think in the first round I just threw an overhand. And basically what happened was I smashed up all the bits of callus and the bone around there. But what happened, like when I went so I went to the same place, Tala Hospital, that got the first surgery in. And when I went back in, they were like, we can't do that again because your thumb bone is fucked now. Um, so then I had about a month of not knowing what the fuck I was going to do. And they were talking about fusing the joint and all this type of thing. Turned out one of the best hand surgeons in Europe is in Prague. And Octagon put me in touch with him. He said, like, I haven't really done this before, but he kind of came up with this surgery to remove most of the bottom part of my thumb and do a bone graft into that. So he had to do that. So I went over there early April and had the surgery there and got like a piece of bone taken out of my radius as well. So they took a little bit of bone out of the radius and put it into the bottom of my thumb, pinned that all in, and then immobilized it for about 6 weeks. And then I was able to get like, the thing is, the mobility was shit once I got out of the cast, but it was a big surgery and it was kind of a complicated surgery, but I was actually grand 3 months afterwards. So I had that done in April. I was back training hitting pads by July. And I was ready to fight again by September. And I was pushing Octagon 4 fights since September. And then because there's so many fucking pussies in the light heavyweight division, and all these Germans think that they have a fucking show no matter what, they don't have to fight anyone who'll beat the shit out of them like I will. I basically spent the year threatening pussies with fights and they were running away. Um, so it's been a frustrating period up until I showed up, and he's obviously taking it because he's 30 fucking kilos bigger than me. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad the hand surgery went well, and that's crazy. 12 weeks. I thought you would have been out a lot longer than that after
well, like
after
because
getting
it's a
surgery on
small
one of
piece
your
of
main
bone,
weapons.
and like part of it is like it's a balls because it's such a small piece of bone, but it also heals a little bit quicker because it is a way smaller piece of bone. But it was just like the location of it was a toast. So if I didn't get that bone in the right shape, my whole thumb wouldn't really work. But the actual bone graft itself, the scar is big enough, but like the piece of bone that went in there is quite small. So it knits together pretty quickly, and they had it all pinned in and stuff as well. So then back in, I think it was early June, I had to do another one where they took out a couple of the pins that were pinning it in. And then I had another 3 weeks of just keeping it fairly immobilized. And then I was back to pretty much not full training, but like decent level of training pretty quickly.
How did you
Um,
find not having a date set? Because you've been constant. Obviously, the two title wins in close succession, but even before that, on the build up to that, like you were flat out ever since joining Octagon.
yeah,
Was there kind of some positives that came from maybe putting the feet up for a couple of months, or were you just raring to
like
go again?
I'll be honest, I was bollocks after that Todd fight because it was a really tough fight. Like I was glad to have a bit of a break.
Hmm.
Um, but once I got out of the cast and once the hand was back moving, I was like, cool, I'm ready to go. Let's gear up, let's go for camp, and let's get a fight lined up. And then it was pretty frustrating. Like I was more frustrated by that than, the surgery and all that type of thing. I was like, okay, I have to go and deal with this injury. I went and dealt with it. And it's like, well, now I'm back. I'm 36 years old and I'm clearly in my prime. Let's make the most of this window. And I felt no desire on Octagon's behalf to make the most of that window. And in fact, it mattered like here's this incredible fighter, this fucking double champ guy who's gone out and done amazing shit. It was like, oh, we have some German lad who looks a bit fucking weird and held on to it to his leg, and we'll promote the fuck out of him instead. So like, there's a bitterness on my behalf because of that, and I'm there to show it. Like, look, okay, you give me any high level fight with a guy like Boudet, guy who's 7-1 in UFC, 30 fucking kilos bigger than me, I'm still gonna go in there and smash that cunt, and you can't deny how fucking class I am. So yeah, that's what I'm here to do, basically. You know?
Definitely
and
your hardest fight yet, would you say?
the Tata fight, yeah, or
Yeah.
the Bidet fight.
The Bidet fight,
Um,
yeah.
if you go about it the wrong way, it could be, but I feel like there's windows to win that fight, and
Mhm.
like there's definitely look, he's a huge man, and if you look at the level of him, he's 7-1 in UFC. There's things that like he's achieved that other guys I've fought haven't. I'll be honest, I'm not intimidated by that at all. I feel like as long as I fight the right way, I can make this a not easy fight, but a fight that I can win convincingly and a fight that I can control the pace throughout the fight. Um, we'll find out about that on the night, but I'm very well prepared to go in and do that right now. And it's kind of like he's a massive opportunity to go and show the level I'm at, is how I feel. So I was delighted when this fight got made, but I'm also like, after I beat this guy, and look, cross that bridge when you get to it, but there's a sense of once I beat this lad, what the fuck is next?
Mhm.
Because none of those German pussies are ever going to fucking fight me. They've done their absolute best to run. So, like, I wonder where this goes because I have another fight left on my contract after that, but let's see.
This is a fight where you really can prove the level that you can operate at. You know, as you say, Budai's 7-1 UFC wins over like Andre or Arlovsky. He obviously held the heavyweight title with OKTAGON, left Dana White's Contender Series, the UFC, and he's now coming back. Is there part of you that's sort of like, fuck you, this is my division,
Yeah,
I hold this title now? The way he's come back in his first fight
yeah,
back
yeah,
in
yeah.
the organization, he's getting a shot at the title that he vacated to go to another organization.
Oh, look, this thing is like the whole buzz they're putting around this is Martin Buday coming back to reclaim his title. You know, that's what the narrative of this fight has been from their point of view. And I'm like, ye fucking stupid cunts are doubting me again. So they'll find out on December 28th what's going to happen. And it'll be very satisfying on my end to just be like, yeah, you thought you could fuck me, did you? Watch.
It is interesting that like there's not many double champions in top organizations. Like Octagon is doing, they're very quickly becoming the top European MMA promotion. But
Uh,
like, why are they not shouting about the fact they've got an Irish double champ? I think you and I both know the reason. It's because obviously they're Eastern European and everything
yeah,
else. But
so they're not looking at the invest in the Irish market and whatever. And look, like, I understand that to a degree. The business side of it, I get. And they're doing an incredible job promoting fights, in fairness. So, like, they're doing a lot of things really right. And they've given me a window to make the best of my career. And I appreciate the fuck out of that. Like, and that's huge, right? I suppose the thing is, when you're the best athlete, clearly the best athlete in the promotion, you'd expect a level of respect that I haven't been afforded. Um, and even a level of reverence that I haven't been fucking afforded because I've made it fairly obvious that there's nobody better than me in this whole place. Like Keda was incredible.
mm-hmm.
Keda's gone to the UFC now. It's like, okay, I'm the guy. You know, I'm here one for 1 pound for pound officially. So why the fuck are you promoting all these other boys like they're the actual shit? And this is just some random Irish lad that you have. No, no, clearly I'm the most skilled cunt in the division. Not even in the division, in the fucking promotion. So look, maybe I need that little bit of bitterness to keep me motivated. And it does. It makes me like, okay, cool. You think I'm this, watch what I am. And yeah, maybe it's something I need for myself a little bit as well. That bitterness.
What about Frederick Vosgrune? What is the latest update with him? Is that fight just not happening because he's faced
No,
off
he's
and
gone. He's gone to an 87. Look, he's doing an 87 kilo catch weight now. So the guy's hunting me down by moving down the division. You know, it's fucking pathetic, man. And even like, here's the thing. This is why I get pissy about this. I have German fans messaging me like on fucking Instagram every day, telling me he's gonna take my legs home and that like he will smash me. It's like, could this lad have made it more obvious he's a pussy? Like the amount of times I've said shit about him on this, like called him out and tagged him in post where I'm calling him a pussy, and he doesn't respond at all. And even like he was giving Dennis Frimpong shit after he lost, and I was like, I'm gonna call you a pussy, and you're gonna say nothing. And he said literally nothing. He just didn't comment on anything after that. You know,
Was there a
it's
plan to make that fight? Because obviously you did do a face off.
yeah, like so. Well, he called. Here's the thing, he didn't think I was there. He didn't know I was backstage that night. So he was like, Will Fleury, is that enough for you? And I legged it up into the cage. So I was cornering backstage and like I was just like, oh, nice one, this is my time. Um, and then like you can see his body language just since I get in the cage, he's a little bit uncomfortable. Now that was before I got like that was in the period in between the Todd F fight and the hand surgery. So I think he was like, oh, I still have a bit of time. But then I was back from the hand surgery a bit quicker. So then I called him out for the clone card. And he was like, oh, we can do it, but I need to get paid properly. Now, number one, do you think I give a fuck what the purse was when I was fighting Carlos? No, Carlos was the opportunity to make my career. You started this by calling me out. You made your fucking call out video when you signed. Like I did when I signed, I was like, Carlos, we all know this ends with you. But he was like, Fleury, I'm hunting you down. I'm coming for you, blah, blah. And then after his first fight, he was like, Fleury, is that enough for you? So I jumped in the cage and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good, mate. Keep it going. We'll see how it goes. And then he pulled out of the fucking fight after that. So then I was like, okay, mate, you haven't like done the work here, but I don't have anybody else who I can fight because Popik, the other fucking pussy, was being a pussy. The guy who was number one contender decided he didn't want to fight, and he's moved down a division as well. So out of the top five, I've beaten three of them, and the other two have moved down a division. Yeah.
It's
So
it's
look,
definitely a weird position that you do find yourself in, and
yeah, no, look,
especially
the thing is, all of those boys have fought in a period where I haven't. So during that period that I was talking about, all them like anybody who's active as a fighter because Attila and like Formola and Attila are no longer active, but everybody else who was active has fought during that period. But I, because I was willing and because nobody was willing to fight me, it's like nah, fucking leave Fleury off.
was Martin Badai due to come back anyway, or is he coming back because there was no one else to fight you?
Like look, once he got not signed by the UFC, it was whether or not Octagon could sign him. Because as soon as I saw that he was being caught, I was like, sure, that's a great fight. So I was hoping they would, but they were telling me the PFL were interested, and I just assumed that the PFL would pay more. And then obviously Octagon pushed up the fucking money a bit and
He's come
got him
back
in.
for what's his. Well,
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So
it
yeah,
isn't.
I'm
It isn't
surprised
it.
they didn't just give him the belt. To be honest, like, at least they let me fight him for it.
That's very, very generous of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
You were kind of talking before about becoming this three-weight world champion. Is that
Yeah.
off the cards? Obviously, if you've got one fight left in your contract after, I suppose you could go down. That's a big weight cut
Like
to be
yeah,
fair,
look,
but
here's the thing. In fairness, I asked about that during the summer, and I was told you defend the heavyweight belt, and if there's nobody else, yeah, we'll let you go down. And the two boys have gone down already, so I don't know if they know I'm coming. Like, um, but look, the thing is, there's options. Like, I'm on a very impressive, what is it, a 9 fight win streak I'm on now. From the PFL into, like, did I fight in between that? No, like PFL into Octagon. Before that, I won the belt out in Abu Dhabi and UAE Warriors. Like, and I think I've been smashing guys pretty impressively recently as well. They're all been exciting and entertaining fights, and I promote the fuck out of the fights. So in the fight game, I have options. I'm only 36 years old, and I feel like I'm very well placed to go and do significant things in the sport. If that's within Octagon, great. If it's not, cool. I'm happy either way. Like I'm pursuing fucking being incredible no matter where I am. So we'll see what happens.
as middleweight genuinely doable with that? I
Yeah,
suppose if you're
yeah. Like,
sitting at
look, should
I
look at
suppose if
Akiva.
you're
Like,
sitting at 104, you're fighting at heavyweight, but Martin Baday's going to have a serious weight advantage
yeah,
over
yeah.
you. So
So like I'm looking at Akiva this week, and I'm like, sure, if he can make middleweight in 2 months, it's gonna take me like 2.5, 3 months to make middleweight.
uh,
Now, like, I wouldn't say it's easy for him to make middleweight, but like he's fighting at the end of January, and he's a big, big lad at the moment, so it's definitely doable. Um, yeah, it's more just you have the is it worth your while doing it? Like, and right now I'm like, look, I'm the heavyweight champ, but I did that because it was an opportunity to go up and win the belt. I now have this incredible opportunity to go and show the level I am by being the guy 30 kilos bigger than me. But my actual, my world class career, like if I'm going to fight the best in the world, I'm doing that at light heavyweight. I'm not deluding myself into thinking like I'm a heavyweight for life type of thing. It's like, no, I was given this opportunity. I've gone and taken this opportunity. But like fighting the rest of my career as a heavyweight isn't something I'm massively fucking about. Like, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to go and show myself as one of the top light heavyweights in the world.
Yeah, of course. How do you game plan, or do you game plan differently for someone that's 30 kilos heavier?
Yeah.
Like, have you
I
ever have you ever been in this situation where you have had the game plan for someone?
I've sparred lads who are a lot bigger than me at times. No, they wouldn't quite have the same physique as Martin. Like, like he's kind of got a very big upper back and like kind of quite big lats and a big enough gut on him. But his legs aren't massive. So he's kind of a funny build for a guy of that weight. Now, nothing on him is small. He's a very big dude overall, obviously, but like I feel like I've sparred guys who wouldn't be a million miles away in terms of shape and size. Not as much recently. Like Carl Moore's gone up to about 120 kilo now, so that's been helpful just to get used to a guy who's like heavy coming at you all the time. Um, but like you can watch a lot of the guy and you can figure out a lot by watching the guy and like, mapping out the movements that you want to do in that situation when he starts to come in and when he starts to and even just like his habits in the fight and like what can I do to exploit some of his habits. So I definitely game plan quite a lot. Like, even this fight got made back in August. So there's been a long time to hone in on some of that shit. Like in some ways maybe be too long because you're kind of going like, oh, I could add this and I could add this and I could add this. And you're like, all right. But like the shit you were doing back 2 months ago was probably quite good as well. So go just like the original skill set's probably the shit you should be focusing on.
Uh,
Um, sorry.
And I suppose that there comes into the fact that you have been so active of recent that you maybe haven't had the time to really hone in on every specific detail. Whereas this time, you have had the time to do that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's been good in a way. And even like fitness wise, like I'm kind of delighted with the fact that this is a 5 round fight because I know I've developed the tank to go and do that. I've had a long camp and I feel very ready. So that's nice in a way because like I'm not going to be like I'll never be exposed for lack of work, if you know what I mean. Um, but I also quite liked some of the other fights when it was shorter notice because it's just like you get in, you watch a week of the guy, you drill shit for 2 or 3 weeks, and you go in and fight him, and it's like, oh yeah, that worked quite well. Like you feel quite fresh doing that. Whereas sometimes, like I was saying there, when you're drilling something for ages, it gets a bit boring, and then you're starting to drill new things and new things and new things and adding and adding and adding, and then you're like, the shit for the first couple of weeks was probably really the right shit. Like, so just go back to focusing on that. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Of course, you've got the one fight left in your contract. Do you see yourself sticking around with Octagon if things change, or like what is the options after? Is the UFC potential PFL?
who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Like I'm a prize fighter, man. That's the thing. I'm a damn good prize fighter. So I want to go out there and claim the biggest prizes there are. And like, I'll be honest, I really enjoy the buzz of the Octagon events. They're class. The
There's
atmosphere is
nothing like
amazing.
them.
Yeah, they are. They're class. Like, and look, I want to like. Here's the thing. I know I haven't been like super positive about a lot of stuff there today, but like, they're a great promotion. They do great work. And I've like, besides like kind of not giving me the shine because I'm an Irish guy, I have a lot of respect for the way they do things. You know, and they're like I would never say they've screwed me over or like they've done, disingenuous things to me or anything like that. They're pretty straight up to deal with too. And the staff behind the scenes are lovely and all the people you deal with on a daily basis are lovely. Like so like they're a great promotion. I like working with them overall. Um if that continues, fantastic. I won't be like put out by that and I won't be like, oh, this is, me taking a second like a backseat for the rest of my career at all. I'm here to do really significant things though. And if they don't really see that as being the way they want to push me, okay, guys, I'm gonna have to go somewhere that will push me like that. And obviously, look, as a kid, you're fighting to get into UFC. That's your goal. So we'll see where things go. You know.
It is a shame that it never worked over in this market because, as you say, like see see the stadium shows that they are putting on. Like,
The atmosphere, man. The atmosphere.
oh, it seems unreal. See the amount of people that I speak to that cover the sport, and the two things they say go to an Octagon show and go to a BKFC event. That's the two things that always come up, and Octagon especially. Like these here cards they're doing in Eastern Europe, selling out football stadiums, and it's actually crazy because last time I spoke to you in Dublin, you said that you would actually get recognised more in Germany than what you would in Ireland.
Way more. Yeah, like look right when I'm like Germany a bit. Like as in, I was surprised. I was walking around Berlin and a few police officers came over and wanted photos of me and shit. It was mad because I saw a cop like running across the street to me. I was like, fuck. And he only wanted a photo. But like in Prague, like I was just over in Brno there, like what a month ago. Prague, Brno, anywhere in Czech Republic, fuck, like because it's bigger in the Czech Republic for me because I fought Carlos, so everybody knows Carlos over there. He's like very mainstream, and my poster was up everywhere at the time I was fighting Carlos, and a lot of people would have seen that fight there. So like wherever I go in Czech Republic, like even I have a good story actually about fucking. I went to the surgery guy. I got like scanned the first day, and then he had a day in between, and then I was going in for the consultation to get surgery. So the day in between, I went down to do a walking tour in Prague, and the guy like, because I got a few people recognized me walking down through the city, and it was a nice morning, like, and like got a few photos coming in on the way, just a few lads being like, "Oh, Fleury, can I get a photo with you?" And then when I got to the walking tour, the guy doing it recognized me, and he like walked over, and he didn't know my name, but he's like, "You're the guy who beat Carlos." I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Look, mate, we do private tours." And I was like, no, mate, you don't make, I don't make as much money as you think I do. Like, and he was like, "Oh, no, I don't want to be doing this tour and everybody stopping, like, wanting photos the whole time." And I was like, "I don't think it's going to be an issue, to be honest, man." So he was just kind of like, all right, we'll see. And yeah, he was fucking right. I got stopped probably 40 or 50 times while he was talking, like, and people going like, "Oh, can I get a photo?" Blah, blah. Now, that was the center of Prague, and that was where all the tourist shit is and all that. So it'd be a very, like, there's lots of people around. But yeah, like, it's mad. Over there, I'm very well known. And I suppose, like, I have a fucking unique enough look and I stand out. But the average person would, like, even, like, a mate of mine's going out with a Czech girl, and her dad, like, found out that my buddy is, like, mates with her. So your man rings me one of the days and was like, "Will you just say hello to this girl's father for a minute?" Like, and the dad's like, "Oh my God, Fleury," like, you know. So that's mad to me, like, because in Ireland, no one gives a fuck. Like,
When
but
you made the transition from rugby all them years ago to start MMA, did you ever like imagine that you'd find yourself in positions like that?
no, but like, I did want to be a high level fighter, and I suppose I was watching UFC and being like, "Oh, sure, things are possible." And then obviously everyone saw the rise of Connor and thought, like, "Fuck, lots of things are possible." But I got to a stage in my career where I was like, "Sure, no one's ever going to give a fuck about your fighting, really." Like, you know. So say like when I was 34, like I've broken that hand over in the thing in Vegas. You know, my first show in Octagon was in Birmingham, and there wasn't a huge crowd for that either. So it kind of felt like, this is going to be much. And then when I knocked the lad out in the stadium, when I knocked Langer out in that stadium, and the amount of fans that were around that night, they came over and been like, "Holy fuck," and you know. But I kind of thought like that's a once off. You just did this thing in the stadium, it's not going to last. Like, but then when I fought Carlos, even when I went to Slovakia to promote that fight, it was like, whoa, this thing is big over here, you know. And even like what I find mad at, like, I don't exactly like I've what 27K followers on Instagram at the moment, right? Anytime I go there, like say that weekend in Brno, genuinely I probably took about 500-600 photos with people, right? And like got tagged in a load of those stories. And I was like, but none of these guys follow me. It's like, you all know who I am, but you don't fucking follow me. So I'm kind of like, I'm probably a bit more famous than fucking like got the following for, if you know what I mean. But I'd say it's because I'm an Irish lad. And that's the thing I'm kind of a bit pissy with Octagon about. It's like they've never promoted me as their guy. I'm a foreigner who's come in and done well. It's like, no lads, I committed to you, so commit back a bit, you know. And like I don't feel like I've gotten that.
And there is a way of promoting. They could be promoting you as the bad guy, the heel as such,
Fair
but
enough, like
still but still talking about the accomplishments and talking about how good you are
yeah,
and the
yeah.
fact that you're on
It's
this
like
streak.
he's a bad
Like,
guy, but he's shit hot. Like in fairness, he's damn good. Like you know, so who can we get? They'll come in and beat him, but they've never promoted
yeah,
that narrative. It's literally just like, yeah, hopefully this guy, like hopefully our guy wins.
yeah,
Yeah, no.
yeah. It's definitely an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Finally, well, I'll let you go, but first of all, I want you to give me a prediction for your fight.
Yeah, I think third round TKO, the way I'm feeling it these days. Like I've been looking at it a lot recently, and yeah, I think first 2 rounds playful, sharp. Third round there's opportunities, windows will open up. I think once I start to tag him, I can't finish him. So I'm looking
Unreal.
forward to it. Cheers, man.
Unreal. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a good
Right.
Christmas and good luck
Thanks,
in the
man.
fight, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks
Cheers,
for having
mate.
me.
What a man. Very, very interesting chat with Will Fleury there, as always. He is one of the easiest interviews that they do. He just talks about anything. Very, very open and honest guy. Of course, talking about his contract situation with OKTAGON. So it'll be interesting to see what way that plays out. Loads and loads of talking points coming out of that interview. So thank you very much for tuning in, and a big thank you to Will Fleury for jumping on the podcast as well. Make sure and tune in on the 28th of December. Keep note, it's that funny time in between Christmas and New Year where there's not much on. A Will Fleury fight's happening, so make sure and get behind him, especially if you're an Irishman as well. If you're from the island of Ireland, you should be supporting Will Fleury's light heavyweight and heavyweight champion of OKTAGON. So big fight for him, and I'm looking forward to tuning into that one. Now we're going to move on to another organisation, which is the PFL, and we're going to be talking about the card which went down in Lyon, France at the weekend. We'll just start off at the top. We'll get into the Dean Garnett stoppage shortly, and we'll get into the Conor Hughes loss as well. But we'll start off at the top. There's a new heavyweight breaking out, and his name is Vadim Nemkov. He beat Renan Ferreira for the vacant heavyweight PFL title. Nemkov, of course, comes out of the gym that's run by Fedor Emelianenko. Really, really good gym. Of course, if Fedor's name's on it, it's going to be good. And Nemkov looks mightily impressive as well. There's a huge skill gap between Nemkov and Ferreira in this fight. Really, really good one for him. I think Ferreira's really overrated. You know, he's 13-5. Just because he's 6'8", people think he's some kind of monster, some kind of unbeatable behemoth. But he's not. Francis Ngannou made light work of him, which, you know, is impressive. But Nemkov made even lighter work of him. So really big skill gap between these two. Nemkov looks very, very good. He moves up to 20-2. The fight the PFL has to make. We'll do the Francis Ngannou talk now. I was going to save it for the back end of the show, but it's relevant to this conversation. Francis Ngannou went on Ariel Helwani and had an absolute car crash of an interview last week. So there's two things. First of all, he's took 8 million from PFL and has fought once. He fought Renan Ferreira, a fight that didn't do many numbers, and he's also talking about running his PFL contract down. It's a bit of a sticky situation the PFL's in with Francis Ngannou. Now, Francis Ngannou doesn't seem to have been a good employee. Now, I will preface this by saying he's went through a lot of shit recently. He lost his child. He was also involved in a car crash, which a woman was tragically killed in as well. So he's having a really, really tough time of it, but he's not helping himself in this situation either. The PFL signed him, and a big part of that was they really helped promote this PFL Africa venture that they were doing. I think he was the chairman or the CEO of PFL Africa, and he didn't even bother turning up to some of the PFL Africa events because he wasn't happy about where it was at, or he wasn't happy about the fighters fighting on it. So he didn't turn up, he didn't do his best to promote it. And in terms of the fighting, he was meant to have a few fights with the PFL as well. I always thought, you know, the worry coming into it, there's not many heavyweights in the world, because especially in America as well, there's loads of heavyweights. If you're that size, you typically go and play American football, or you do collegiate wrestling or something like this. MMA really does struggle to get heavyweights, and that's why, as I spoke about earlier, there's a real drop off in talent. You've got the top 5 or 6 in the world who are really, really technical, really, really good, and then you go down to these blob heavyweights as what they would be called, or as what they get referred to. So my worry when Francis Ngannou signed for the PFL was, are they going to have enough opposition or enough opponents for him? It seemed like they haven't, but there's also a part that, you know, Francis Ngannou might have a part to play in this as well. So he beat Renan Ferreira, and, you know, Nemkov has just beat Renan Ferreira as well for this vacant PFL title. Francis Ngannou says that his PFL contract runs out before, we know it's before June, because Ariel Helwani asked about the White House card, and Francis Ngannou says yes, his contract's up before that. We're not going to see him on that. I'll get on to the stuff with Dana in a minute, but Dana White has confirmed Francis Ngannou will not be back in the UFC, but we know his contract with the PFL is up before June. I don't think the PFL will want to re-sign him. They'll not want to pay big money to re-sign him. They've already gave him £8 million or dollars or whatever it was in for very little, to be honest with you, because he hasn't really done much for them. He had one fight against Fleury that didn't do many numbers. He didn't turn up to a lot of the PFL Africa and didn't champion that the way that he should have. They've now got a situation where he's got one fight left in his contract, and I might run out, which I don't know what the best situation is. Of course, the PFL is going to want to cash in. They're going to want to have that one fight that's left on his contract and force Francis Ngannou to have that. But the problem is, if he fights Nemkov for the heavyweight title, let's say he beats Nemkov, he's not going to get a new contract anyway. He doesn't want a new contract, but the sounds of it, and the PFL, quite rightly so, don't want to give him a new one. So he becomes the heavyweight champion, and then the belt becomes vacant again because he has to ride off into the sunset and go and do more boxing or something, because the PFL is not going to sign him. So to me, that heavyweight title fight isn't really an option. Everyone's saying the PFL can't muck this up. They have to make Nemkov versus Ngannou, but to me it doesn't make sense. Francis Ngannou done the exact same thing when he was in the UFC. He just vacated the belt and left the organisation. He seems to be quite a hard guy to get deals done with, so I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what way this plays out. But for the people online saying PFL have to make Ngannou versus Nemkov, they'll blunder it if they don't. It would be a bad business move. Yes, you might get a lot of hype for it. It's not that it's a bad business move, because this could go perfectly for the PFL, which would be the perfect scenario is Nemkov beats Francis Ngannou, holds the heavyweight title, retains it, and Francis Ngannou rides off into the sunset, and him and the PFL split ways, which they're going to do anyway. But the other scenario is, this is the big risk of it. Francis Ngannou could beat Nemkov, which then means that he holds the title. They're not going to renew his contract anyway, because it seems like he's been a bad employee. He hasn't done what he was meant to do. They're going to split ways anyway, and then the heavyweight title becomes vacant. So it's a real risk to reward ratio thing here for the PFL, where it's like, who do they give Francis Ngannou to? So the people saying online that Nemkov has to fight Francis Ngannou, the PFL can't muck this up. I don't know. I look at it differently. I think it would be a bad business move for them, and a very, very risky one at that, because Francis Ngannou is dangerous. I don't think it would be as dangerous as what he once was, because he doesn't. I don't know what his lifestyle like. So apparently he's in good shape, according to his interview with Ariel Helwani. Apparently he has been in fighting shape, but he's been so inactive, especially inside the octagon or the cage or the PFL smart cage or whatever you want to call it. He's been so inactive that can he perform at them high levels that he once did when he beat Stipe Miocic, when he beat Cyril Gane? Can he hit them levels again? I am not sure. So Nemkov could beat him. There's a very good chance he could beat him. I would maybe even pick him to beat him in that fight. But to me, the risk just isn't. The risk is just too big for the PFL to put that fight on. So the other thing about Francis Ngannou was all this stuff about Dana. I said it was a car crash of an interview he done with Ariel Helwani, and it really, really was. Not a good look at all. He sort of was talking around the answers, and Dana White talks a lot of shit. Don't get me wrong. I know Dana White talks a lot of shit. You know Dana White talks a lot of shit. It's a known fact that he does. This Francis Ngannou stuff might be true, but he says that Francis Ngannou grabbed him. There was some physical altercation, that he wasn't a good guy to work with. He wasn't a good guy to be around. There's people that used to work for the UFC speaking out and saying he was very intimidating in the office. He would just stand over you and all this kind of stuff. Dana White hates him. He really does not like him. And Francis Ngannou didn't do a good job of denying the allegations either. Ariel Helwani put it on a plate for him. All he had to say was, no, this isn't true, and I completely messed it up. So I thought he came across as very obnoxious in that interview. Not a great look for him, to be honest, in my opinion. And the co-main event then of the PFL, Chris Cyborg gets a very, very good win over Sarah Collins. She gets a submission win. I think that's maybe her first submission win in her career, or second, or she's not known for her submission wins, but she gets one here. Good to see Chris Cyborg back in action, an MMA legend. She spoke about having one more fight left. There was two names mentioned, and I love both fights. Dakota Teshiva, we'll speak about her for the first one. This would have to be at a catch weight. This would really have to be at a catch weight, and I don't know if it's worth it for Dakota, because Dakota's very fine. She's tall, but she's very, very fine. And for her, I would have to be at bantamweight. Of course, Dakota fights at flyweight. I would have to be at bantamweight, and Chris Cyborg would have to come down from featherweight to bantamweight. It's not any of their natural weight classes. I don't know. I think Chris Cyborg would be far too big for her. Dakota Tchiva, dangerous Dakota Tchiva. I am a Dakota Tchiva fan as much as the next man, but I don't like this fight for her. I think it takes away a lot of Dakota Tchiva's hype when it doesn't really need to. She's coming in massively disadvantaged because Chris Cyborg's going to be the much bigger fighter. So I'm not a big fan of that fight. If Dakota Tchiva could, if she dares for greatness and she wants this fight and she does get the job done over Chris Cyborg, what a way to build even more hype and hopefully move on to the UFC. But I want Dakota Tchiva to stay in PFL, run this contract down, which she just signed a new one there a few months ago, which I don't understand. But I want to see her in the PFL. I think that's where she's going to really build her greatness, not by beating Chris Cyborg. So I don't really like that fight. The fight I do like is who Chris Cyborg called out in the cage after in her interview, which was Liam McCourt. Liam McCourt, of course, from Belfast, Northern Ireland. So would be a very, very interesting fight, that, and I would love to see it in Belfast as well. Imagine Chris Cyborg retiring in Belfast. The PFL, of course, had a great show in Belfast back in, I think it was maybe March time. They put on a brilliant show there. The crowd was unbelievable for Paul Hughes. They've got a good few fighters now sort of coming out of Belfast, coming out of the rest of Northern Ireland. So this is one that makes sense to me, especially with Paul Hughes wanting to come back to Belfast as well, and especially with the situation that he's in where he can't really fight Usman again for the title. He's going to have another opponent where Paul Hughes is going to be the A side, because there's no one in the organisation that's a bigger name than Paul Hughes apart from Usman Nurmagomedov, and he's already booked up. He's already beat Paul Hughes twice, so Paul Hughes probably will have some bargaining chips, or will have some bargaining power in order to bring the PFL back to Belfast. Liam McCourt against Chris Cyborg makes all the sense in the world for that card as well. So what a night that would be here. Oh, unbelievable stuff. They could maybe even do it down in Dublin as well, but I don't care. That's a very, very good fight. Two very good fights they happen on the island of Ireland. So Chris Cyborg retiring in Ireland, you heard it here first. That would be very, very interesting. Moving on down the card, Patrick Habiora beats Kevin Josette, which very, very good win. He moves up to 8-0. This guy could be a star in the making. Another first round finish if the PFL promote him right, which they do seem to be doing. He could go a long, long way. So I'm excited to see what happens with him. He's the sort of guy that the UFC could snatch up pretty quickly if the PFL don't manage him correctly. But I like that from him. Very, very good win. Taylor Lapilus beats Liam Gittins in Liam Gittins' PFL debut. Bad night for the Scousers here. Really bad night for the Scousers. They went 0-3. I was talking about the Scouse takeover and it didn't quite go as planned. Now, this Dean Garnett stoppage is one of the worst I have ever seen. Categorically, this was absolutely terrible. I see people online trying to defend the referee, which, the referees have to make a decision in a split second. Sometimes they are going to get it wrong, but they have to be called out whenever they do something like this, because this is a terrible, terrible stoppage. It's hard to see what the referee was saying here, because yes, Dean Garnett got dropped to the body. It was only a body shot. There was no way he was out cold. There was no way the referee could try and say that he was trying to protect him because he was out cold. He got dropped to the body. But he done something that you see Matthias Gamrot do quite often, where it looks like he gets dropped, but what he's actually doing is shooting for a takedown. He gets caught with a really good dig and shoots for a takedown. That's what Dean Garnett done. Dean Garnett shot for the leg of the opponent, had a really good hold of the leg of the opponent, looked like he was going to land a successful takedown, and the referee jumps in. And Dean Garnett, he's got all of his senses about him straight away. He can protest the decision straight away. This is one of the worst stoppages I've seen in a long time, especially when there's £100,000 on the line, and especially when it's Dean Garnett, someone that fought against Lewis McGrillen. 15 knockdowns there was in that fight, and it went into the third round. The referee, he mustn't have watched that fight, because if there's someone that's proved he can go a long way after being stunned repeatedly, as Dean Garnett, and he didn't even get stunned. He got shot, or he got hit with a body shot, and that's what dropped him. That's what sort of folded him a wee bit. I don't actually know if it did drop him, but that's what the referee seen. That's what the referee stopped it based on. Terrible, terrible stoppage when there's 100k on the line. Someone like Dean Garnett coming to the tail end of his career. and it was someone that deserves the opportunity to fight for in this final. He's fought twice already this year, got 2 good finishes, and then he gets done like this in his 3rd and final fight of the year, 3rd and final fight of this PFL European tournament, which they're getting rid of as well, so he won't even get a chance in it next year. I don't know, it stinks of shit, and it's not a very, very nice situation to be in. I have reached out to Dean Garnett, and I think we might be able to get him on the podcast. He wasn't on in time for today's episode, but I might do a bonus episode. He's going to reach out to me and give me some facts and stuff about why this stoppage is terrible, because I think there's some history with the referee, which I'm not going to get into now until I have all the details from Dean himself, because I don't want to conspire, I don't want to speak out of line. So I will wait until I get them details from Dean Garnett before speaking on it further, but he's to get back to me later on. Hopefully, maybe I'll get him in this podcast, maybe not, but I'll definitely be speaking to him at some stage anyway. So, very, very hard one to take for him. Very hard one to take. I hope the PFL look after him. I hope they do give him some kind of opportunity. I don't know what that looks like, but some kind of opportunity to maybe run that back, give him extra money in his next fight if he wins it or something, because he's been categorically shafted here. Now, Conor Hughes, the other Scouser. Conor Hughes, man, didn't like seeing this one. Because he was looking good in there too. It was a really, really good fight for what it lasted. But Alexander Chisov, you can see the levels in this fight. You know, both very, very close in records. Very, very sort of like similar fighting styles nearly. They're both sort of stand-up fighters. Can take a punch, can give a punch. Both got power. And this was a very, very close fight for what it lasted. I had it 1-1. Conor Hughes rocked Chisov in the second round. And looking back in hindsight, to be really critical of Conor Hughes, he probably shouldn't have grappled after stunning Chisov. He decided to get a clinch against the cage. He maybe should have just tried to go for the finish, or not go for the finish, but put a bit more pressure on with the hands there where he was getting success. Very hard one to take for Conor Hughes. That's 2 years in a row he's lost in the final. That is the fight game for you. You can be on top. You can be in a really good fight. All it takes is just to get caught, and that's what happened to Conor Hughes. But he'll be back. I was texting him there just after the fight, and he says he'll be back. I said he'll be back. So keep an eye on what's next for Conor Hughes. Very, very disappointing night for the Scousers overall in the PFL. So hopefully we can bring you more on the Dean Garnett situation in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. That's all we have for today's episode, folks. Thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. As I said, 5 episodes in now every Monday. I've been doing this podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's much, much appreciated, and especially if you've been supporting from the start. I really do appreciate you taking the time out to listen to this. I'm still learning the game, still new to it, so any support, any feedback, anything you can give me, just send it my way, please. Also, reach out to your friends and family that's in the fight and tell them about the podcast. Get them to follow me on social media. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks, and I will see you next week.